Well, welcome to our podcast. We are excited to have you along for this journey. My name is Ann and I'm the Executive Director of Peace Restored. I'll be your host as we discuss mental health and faith in our podcast, Seeking Healing, Finding Hope, which is a production of Peace Restored, a 501c3 nonprofit located in Indiana, serving women everywhere. So we're glad you were listening again, and we're excited to be able to discuss more about Peace Restored, and welcome back on the show with us, Renee.
Thanks. I'm super excited to be here.
So there's been a lot that's happened since the last podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I know our listeners, for them, it's been just a couple of weeks, but for us, it's been a little bit longer.
A couple months.
Yeah. And so we've had a lot of change, a lot of updates. One of the biggest things that's happened in the last couple of weeks, at least for us sitting in this room, is you've had a title change.
I have. I am honored and excited. Very happy, very excited to be the assistant director now at Peace Restored.
I'm so excited to have you in that role. Renee's worked so hard this year, just helping come alongside me for all of this last year and a little bit more, and just really helped the organization grow. And she's done way more than be a counseling supervisor. And for those who don't know Renee, and for those who do, will know that she definitely deserves this role. And so we're excited. So, but yeah, there's been a lot of changes overall at the office, and we had a little bit of a break over the holidays for the staff, and now we're back in it, hitting everything full speed ahead.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're just a few days into January, and it's been very full. Yeah.
Feels like a long month already.
It does, but I think that just goes to speak to the need for what we're doing here at Peace Restored. It's really been good for us over the last, several podcasts to really get a chance to talk a lot about the stories of how Peace Restored got started, what we're doing, how we, kind of our history, if you will, of what we're doing. But today we're kind of going to take a little bit of a shift in our focus and talk about the long-term vision for Peace Restored, like kind of where we're going. And I'm really excited about this story because, while I love to see what God's done over the last 7 years now, I cannot wait to see how he unfolds the next 7.
Yeah. It is really exciting to think about the future and to get a chance to share that with our listeners today.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they'll be intrigued and continue to listen through the whole thing, because I would just say, if you're listening today, just to keep on listening, because there's going to be so much that unfolds as we talk about all the different parts of what's to come.
Yeah, we're able to provide a broad scope, right, to start, and then, moving forward, it'll be more content, more topic driven, and that'll be really good for the listeners.
It'll be so good. So today, before we kind of dive into that next part of kind of our vision and everything and where we're going, Renee, would you talk a little bit about our services and what we currently provide, so that way if somebody's listening, they're like, okay, I'm kind of getting a picture of who you are as an organization. I've heard like the different stories, your foundation, all this is stuff that's happened over the last podcast, but can you, what is it that you guys do? And so they might still have that question. So could you elaborate a little bit on that and help people understand?
Yeah, well, in part, it might be hard to understand exactly what we do because we do so many things.
Yes.
We have counseling, we have mentoring, we have coaching, Bible studies, classes, support groups. We serve adult women, 18 and older.
Yep.
We serve women both in person and virtually. We've had the honor of serving women in 10 Indiana counties, 7 states and 4 countries, and also a U.S. territory. Now we can add that to our resume. And so we offer a lot of different things. And, as we plan for 23 in the future, we're just going to keep offering a variety of services to help women. We just keep praying and talking about the need, noticing the need, and trying to do what we can to meet that need.
I think that's one of the things that makes us unique, is that how we are able to provide this model of team care, where we're able to do so many different ways that we serve our clients and we integrate them together. Right. But we don't limit it to an area, a location. It's women is our limitation.
Right.
Adult women.
Really, meeting adult women where they are. Yeah. And it's just there really is no other place like Peace Restored. We say it all the time. Our ladies say it all the time.
Yeah.
Just the variety of services and care options that we provide. So if you're listening and you would like to seek services at Peace Restored, you can reach out to us. You can check us out on our website, peacerestored.net. You can call the office, 317-361-5281. Email us, info@peacerestored.net, or lots of social media options as well.
Yeah. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the things, right?
YouTube. Right. So lots of ways to interact and connect with us.
Sure.
Definitely.
Not only could people, if they're looking for services, but maybe somebody's like, man, I love hearing all the things you guys are doing. And maybe you don't need those services, but you love our heart for what we're doing. You love the mission of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to support us financially. We would love that too, because we are supported by individual donors, and that's how we continue the work that we do. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to do that, the same places that Renee mentioned, going to our website, our social media pages, calling us, email, whichever, you're able to give to us. We have multiple ways for you to be able to give, to contribute to Peace Restored. And all your donations, because we're 501c3, are tax deductible. And so, I would just ask that you would consider coming alongside of us and joining us as we talk about this longer term vision. Right.
And of course, we listed all of those things, but of course the podcast is new and it's exciting and more people are joining us.
Yes.
Lots of different places to listen to the podcast. And also upcoming classes on demand.
I know that I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I will say, as you guys are growing with us and listening to us, give us some grace as we're learning how to do all these things, because I don't think any of us claim to be professional podcasters, but we're learning and we're enjoying this process and enjoying being able to share in this way. But the same thing with the classes on demand, we're going to learn how to do that well because we know the value in being able to provide service to you, be able to provide extra resources, and there's a value to that. And that's why we want to do this, and we want to hone our skills and be able to do more.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I appreciate all that you've been sharing, Renee, and I thank you for that and be able to just really help us to understand more about Peace Restored and kind of what we're able to provide. But I think one of the things that people might be interested in learning about is, like we talked about, we're a donation-based services organization, meaning we're supported by donations of others. But then they might be wondering, well, don't people pay for their services, maybe for their counseling or for their groups that they come to, or whatever they're coming in for? So don't they pay for that? And so could you answer that question of what do our clients do?
Yeah. So, we want to give and we want to serve. And I think one of the things about giving and serving is allowing women to have to invest in their care, to invest in what they do without feeling burdened by the expense. So we offer a donations-based model, which is, again, very unique. We want to meet women where they are. It is costly to get care, but of course, we're not free. It's not just about low income, although we have variety. We have a variety of women who come from various incomes, but they come for so many reasons. The expense, and of course, the donation-based model helps with that, but also because it's different. And so the ladies are able to invest in that. They work with Taylor Carnes, our client liaison, so that they can really make educated decisions about what they can afford to give. And I think a lot of our ladies are proud to say that they give and support us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only do they receive, but that they're a part of the Peace Restored family, and they're able to invest.
They want to contribute.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I love that our ladies want to be able to be a part of this thing, because I think the reason why they want to be a part is because they know the value in what they receive. And so they don't, they want to make sure that they see us continue. Because then not only do they give for their services, but many of our clients, once they leave, they'll decide to continue to donate, just to give back.
Yep.
And that's huge as well.
It is.
You mentioned Taylor, and so I thought I'd remind our listeners that if they want to learn more about Taylor, they can go on to, I think it was podcast 3, if I remember correctly, and they can go back and listen to her story and a little bit about her and catch that. So if you didn't hear that and you want to learn about it, we'll try to remember we will post that in the show notes so that way you can be able to get back to that easier and learn more about her. Because she is a very integral part in working with our clients, and she's that hub between the clients and all of our different staff. So, so I love, though, that we are able to really connect with women all over the place and just in so many different places. It's not just, we're not just fitting one niche of one special niche of services in need or one focus of need. We're just, it's just women that and I don't mean that in a derogatory or negative way. I mean, women is our only criteria is that you have to be a female.
Right, and an adult.
An adult, adult female woman, yes. Right. And that we serve them for as long as they need and that we just walk alongside them. So would you want to maybe tell from your perspective what you've been able to observe over the time you've been with us of how clients maybe respond or maybe how they've been impacted by Peace Restored?
Yeah, so of course, as we were just discussing, the financial piece is different than most counseling places, but also the variety of services. We have a team model, and so we work together to provide a variety of levels of care. So, for example, the widows, somebody who's widowed might come to a fellowship dinner, and so they're just breaking bread, having a meal, right? Low pressure. We have people who do counseling, and they come in, every other week. The classes, weekly Bible studies. I mean, just the variety of services and the variety of experiences of our care team and the education, and we just work well together. We're a unit, and so being able to provide a relational service across the board, and all of our clients knowing and understanding that we do work together. And so, even today I said something to a client, you can go on in if you'd like it. Oh, no, I'm going to stay out here in the office and talk to Grace for a while. Yeah. Right. And it really is a beautiful thing.
That is, when you say that, I think about a lot of our clients will come in early just so they can visit.
That's right.
Yeah. And we've had clients who stay late just because they want to hang out. They need a place just to sit and process or a place to just be still.
Right. Or the clients who are after they have a session that's particularly hard and just having a quiet room to shut the door and just be left in a safe, peaceful place. I think of a new client who came in and said, I could do my sessions online, but I just love the environment here. I just love the atmosphere here. Yeah. So if I can come in, I really want to do that. Yeah. And so, of course, we'll do what we can to accommodate that. And it's just, it's amazing. And it is very different in that way. It's not, you don't come in and do the thing and leave. It's you come in and you learn, okay, well, what else is going on? And, let me smell these candles. And, it's just a multi-sensory, relational experience.
I think one of the things I love is that all of our staff strives to know each of our client by name.
That's right.
They're not just another number. I mean, right now we have between 60. We have about 70 active clients in our roles, but we have about another 130, I think it is, that are kind of sitting there that kind of cycle in and out. So we can have anywhere between 70 to 150 clients coming in through our doors. Right. And so when you think about that, thinking that how our staff is so intentional to making sure that they get to know each of the clients, they get to build relationship with them. And it's not because they have to. Right. It's because they want to.
They want to. Yeah. They really look forward. Many of our women really look forward to coming in. And like you said, they arrive early and stay late sometimes and
volunteer.
Absolutely. And the chocolate doesn't hurt either. Lots of them enjoy the fact that we,
chocolate
like
everywhere.
I said, multi-sensory. Right?
Yep. So we want to take care. We're here to care for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not only have we, we talked about growing and some of the changes we've had, but there's been some other changes in the organization and some things that's been happening over the last couple of months of the organization. Can you share a little bit about some of that, how that's been going in the last couple of months?
For sure. We're growing. Our staff is growing in so many ways, right?
Yes.
Numbers, education and training and professional skill building and just perfecting our craft, building as a team, growing as a team. I think last year we had 6 staff and grew to 9. Of course, at least one of us, stepped into the role of motherhood and had to, say goodbye to us for a little while. But, just even continuing those relationships and then having people join us and say, I want to be there. I want to be a part of this. So definitely growing in staff. And then as well, of course, even as staff, growing into different new roles, new opportunities between us. Our clients, we have new clients all the time. Join us, again, website, email, they call. And then, of course, space, because of the growth. There are growing joys and growing pains. And so our space, we just moved into a larger space last year, and we're already ready to move to a new space because we're outgrowing what we have, which is such a blessing. So our staff, our clients, our space,
everything.
We're bursting at the seams, I think. And
I was sitting here thinking as you were talking about space, I know our audience can't really see very well this room, but the room we're sitting in right now, our podcast studio, this was our original counseling room.
Yeah.
This was the original counseling room. This is the only one.
Yeah.
And so for us to have, this is our podcast studio, and then we have counseling rooms. So we have, if you haven't been here, we have a couple of different buildings that we have here in Mooresville, and the other space has our counseling rooms in it. But to have that, now we have this space as our counseling or our podcast studio, and then outside of that, we have a classroom space, and then our retail space, of course. And then just thinking about this used to be the only place. And then when we moved to the other one, we're like, oh, great, look, we're having more space to be able to work with clients. It's going to be wonderful. Right. And now here we are just a year later, and it's like, this isn't sustainable here just because of the growth is so much.
Yep. It's amazing. And of course, you've had a long-term vision, 3-phase long-term vision for a long time. And we're getting closer and closer to that reality. Yeah. Of course, that's going to take more time, more work, more donors, more sponsors, more resources. Yep. And we'll have some shifting in location before then. But I'd love to spend the rest of the time talking about that long-term vision, one phase at a time.
Yeah, that's kind of exciting when I think about it, because even though this has been something we've been talking about internally in the office for longer than we've been talking about externally, of course, I still get excited when I think about it. Especially, and I think now that we're getting closer and closer to that being able to become a fruition. Yeah. And I just kind of want to, as I'm thinking through this, one of the questions I get asked sometimes that I want to kind of answer, because I wonder if people are thinking about it, is why have you waited to this point in the organization? A lot of times when you look at an organization, the first thing they do is get large facility, and then they kind of start figuring out everything, figuring out how we're going to do all the things and stuff. But what we wanted to do at Peace Restored is really intentionally make sure we had all of our systems in place, our model of care, how we take care of our clients, developing our staff. Those things we wanted to make sure were good and strong before we jumped into a larger facility, because it's hard to grow at the rate that we're going to need to grow if we don't have that foundation. So we spent the first several years not only growing staff-wise, growing clients, but we were building our foundation as an organization.
And a culture, right? I mean, we've established now a culture that is Peace Restored, but also, following the Lord's leading one step at a time. It's
Absolutely.
Like, okay, we don't know exactly what you're doing, but, the next kind of right step or the next step.
What's the next right step?
But always God giving us this vision. And I remember walking in the first time and seeing the big boards with the long-term vision and just, wow, just being amazed and excited from the beginning.
Yeah. So there's a lot that we have for a long-term vision, but it might be also another question before I jump into that again. Just one more question I'll answer that I know I get asked a lot is, how did you get to that idea? Like, how did we come up with, wake up one day and just had this eureka moment? Well, no, it wasn't that. It was, I really spent a couple of years, when we first were open again, building that foundation of going around and interviewing, asking good questions with different organizations, what works, what doesn't work, specifically organizations that work with women, to find out kind of the gaps in services. What was missing? What were not only the people who worked in that industry and the industries that we serve, what they felt was missing or lacking, what they struggled with and what did work. But also I talked to the clientele and we're like, what do you see here? From your perspective, what's needed? And so I just started doing my own research and data gathering project for a couple of years. And from that information and just really seeking the Lord and praying and observing our clients, we came up with this long-term vision.
Right.
And so really part of that vision, the first phase is what we call our community center. And the community center is this, if you will, kind of picture this larger building that it would really replicate the work that we're currently doing here, where we can be able to have a larger space where we can do counseling, more counseling than what we do now. We'd be able to have lots more rooms to do that. We'd be able to have a large open space where we could do classes and groups, be able to offer more of that because, again, we're about holistic care. So I always tell people we used to do self-defense classes in the early days. I'd love to be able to bring those back because they're so not only important, they're empowering to women, especially women who have been through some type of trauma. So be able to bring those back and other things I just have on my heart that I want to bring in that provides that holistic care for women. And we can do that with a larger space. But in that community center, we'd be able to do so many things. We would also have this really unique niche or cutout space in the community center that I want to be able to provide a space to where people in the community can partner with us when we have the community center and be able to donate high-quality household items. Because there's a huge need that we want to be able to meet for our clients. But the thing that will be unique, because it's very intentional, is we want to start building out that part of the community center or that store, if you will, for donations early on. But we're not going to tap into it until we get to the third phase because we want to start building it because it's going to be really integral when we get there. And some people might be confused by that, but I will elaborate on that when we get to the third phase. Yeah. This space will be big enough to where we can use it for multiple things. We can use it for fundraising events for ourselves. So many things we can do with it. If you want to be able to see, we had some kind of see this visioning that we're talking about. If you go to our website, which again is peacerestore.net, we partnered with Amanda Andrews Design, and she was able to do these beautiful renderings, and you can see what this will look like. So I'd encourage you to go to our website. You can check it out and you can get more of these details because while I can talk about it and I can try to describe it to you, I'm a visual person and I love to be able to see what somebody's talking about. So just go there, check it out. There's actual videos on there so you can see the walkthrough and different things like that. And if you want to see the pictures that Renee was talking about, we're happy to have you come in and do a tour of our office. Yeah. You can schedule a time to do that and we'll walk through and show you what we're doing currently, where we're going and all the things like that. So that's really kind of that first phase of where we're going. It allows us to be able to serve more clients and be able to do more and reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
It's phase one, community center.
Phase one, community center, yeah. I think that's going to be amazing just to see how it unfolds. I'm sure there'll be things about it and uses that we find that we don't even know
we have no idea
about yet. And it'll be really exciting to see what happens with that. So let's go on and talk about phase two.
Okay. So phase two is a little unique when we think about mental health care, because I think one of the first things I think about, I don't know about you, but when I think about mental health care is the word is reactive. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think it's the design of mental health care, and it's reactive because we jump in when there's a problem. There's
precipitating event or something.
Right. And that's the nature of how it works. Because it'd be a little weird, let's just say, if we just showed up at your house. I'm like, I think you're going to need me in the future. Let's go and work on it now.
Right.
People might be like, you get in my space. So that's not how mental health works, right? So something happens, a precipitating event, like you said, they come in and we work through that. And so as I was talking to different people around in the community, that was one of the things I learned really quickly that was missing was that proactive model of care. Like how, and I began to just really wrestle with that. How can we do that? How can we provide not only proactive care, but also ways for us to really meet some of the people's needs, especially if they're not here locally? And the answer for that came through thinking like, well, we could build a retreat center. And so this retreat center, I would say, if you're just listening to our voice, picture a larger bed and breakfast where we'd have like 5 to 6 bedrooms where women could come and stay for short periods of time, a couple weeks at a time. And it would be a place where they could just kind of pull away, refresh. Maybe while they're there, they're like, hey, I do need to talk to someone while you're here. So maybe they can get anonymity of care where they pull away and they just need a quiet place to talk to somebody and they can schedule counseling. Maybe they're somebody who lives in another state and they want to be able to meet with their counselor face to face so they can come in and they can do a counseling intensive. The other things we could do with that is we already offer retreats through our widows program,
right?
But we'd love to be able to expand on that. So maybe we could offer more topic specific retreats. There's so much we could do with our retreat center that could then become that proactive model of care and be able to help people start to either process through things earlier or just give them a quiet place just to be still, because that is something that we all need to practice, is just that being still and being quiet and resting.
Yeah, and the day-to-day activity, sometimes it can be hard to even hear our own thoughts and feel our own feelings. And especially, you think about women who are mothers and working and all the things. A lot of our women come in and one of the big things is there's not time and space for them. So providing a place where they can pull away and be. And be seen and be cared for. What a rich opportunity that will be. And again, I was talking to somebody recently and, she said, I just wish I had a place where I could just go and just be for a little while. And I just, it's coming. It's coming.
I know.
It's coming.
I know.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm with you, whenever I hear a client or somebody share with me, like, I just need, and I'm like, oh, my heart breaks a little bit because I'm just so anxious to get to this point because the need is so big.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I convey that enough to people in those things. I'm like, if you just understood the sheer need.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes people think of retreat as, a luxury too, or a vacation.
Yeah.
Right. But shifting that, it's not for a lot of our ladies, it's needed. Yeah. It's necessary. Yeah. They don't have relief. They don't have support. They're embarrassed. They feel guilty. And so they need that comfortable environment where they can be and they're safe and they're seen and they don't have to hold it all together.
Yeah. But what a better way to help somebody know that they have value and worth than to pamper them with love and encouragement, a safe space, a place that's welcoming and warm, a place where they can just sit and be still. I mean, those are not things you could get just anywhere.
Right. And of course, when you say pampering, I just think of, how many women have said to us, I've never felt loved before. Yeah. And I feel loved. I feel cared for here, Yeah,
absolutely. Very often. Many of our clients just come in and they don't hug us because they need comfort at the end of a session only. They hug us because they come in and they love to see us.
They love to see us, right? And they do truly feel cared for.
Yeah. And that's why they love to see us, right? Because that caring.
Right.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. We had a client walk in today, today that we're recording this, and I hadn't seen her for a little bit. And as soon as she saw me, I just looked at her. She just came up to me and gave me a great big hug. Like, I've missed you. It's so good to see you again. And just that welcoming, because, and it was good for me too, because I miss seeing our clients, but I don't get to see them every day.
Yeah.
We miss interacting with them.
Yeah.
So, but this retreat center would be just such a neat place. It's, again, another unique niche, because when we think about mental health care, we think about going to receive services, going to get counseling. It's like you go in and you're just doing the process. And again, I'm not diminishing that. I think there's a huge value to that.
Absolutely.
But again, this model that we're talking about, this phase of developments that we're talking about, is birthed out of the things that we saw that were missing, that we're trying to fill gaps in services, and that's what this is going to
respite.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah. As we're talking, I'm thinking about just how intentional this all is. We really seek, and you've spent a lot of time and energy researching and really trying to understand what the needs are, and identifying there are needs and there are providers, but there are holes. There are places that we're not providing. There are needs that women have and wanting to fill in the gaps. And I think these two, the first phases, of course, are going to do that really well. But of course, that proactive piece, of course, is important and all of that. But of course, there is a third stage, which I think is very unique and will really go a long way to serving the ladies that we serve, but also their children. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say the third phase is probably the largest phase of development for us. But I think it has the potential to make probably the biggest impact.
Absolutely. I think so.
And the third phase is what we call restoration houses. And before I get into that too far, one of the things whenever I do tours, I always ask people, and I know Renee knows the answers to these questions, but I'm still going to pose them to her, and she'll probably get all the answers, I'm sure. But
I'll do my best to play along.
I'm sure you'll play along with my little game. Is that I always ask people, we always talk about housing, because when you hear the word housing, there's almost always an immediate connection to housing that people have. And I'm sure you know what some of those are, if not all of them, right? And so when you think about housing, what do you think about as the normative things that we give housing for?
Right. It's typically an impoverished part of town, often unsafe, not very attractive.
Okay.
Right? In fact, we've heard people talk about giving to charity, and it's like, well, at least you got something,
Yes.
So, it's not high quality. It's like, providing the minimum of a need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then when we think about maybe demographics that might go in, so what type of needs might they be meeting? Like what type of women, I hate to say what type of women, but what situation might they find themselves in?
Yeah, I mean, I think situations where maybe their spouse has left them, maybe they're from domestic violence situation, they've lost job, they've lost income, they've lost their support system. They're, who knows? I mean, it could be family, it could be death.
Right. So usually they are finding themselves without a home.
Right.
For some reason, various reasons that can happen. So they might be homeless in some matter. So that might cause them to go look for shelter somewhere.
Or perhaps they have to flee quickly.
Right.
And so they leave pets behind. They leave clothing behind. Children leave toys behind.
Yes. And so they're going out. So that would be what we call domestic violence, right? So they would be fleeing for protection.
Right.
And really the third way that I know of, so that's two of them, the ways that I always talk about. And the third one that I think about, that sometimes people think about for housing, that's not necessarily housing, but it's another time when people go away for care, is addiction
That's
care.
True. Yes, of course.
And so those are really the three major ones. And I've gotten asked many times, but what else is there? Are there other needs? Why would somebody else need housing if it doesn't fit that? And I'm like, oh, but there's so much more. And so I always kind of like to talk about is, could you imagine, and I know you can, but for our listeners, if you would imagine with me a young woman or a middle-aged woman, whichever one, that is going about her daily life and she has kids at home and then suddenly she comes home to find her husband passed away. Well,
the devastation.
Yeah, the devastation's huge. And it's not like, some might argue, well, she has a home. She should be happy. What if her husband died in her home? What if? Or what if your anxiety is so high that you can't function and you haven't left your home in a year or 6 months? What if, we can just go on with that. There's so many things where people are not able to function at be their best self because there's something that's holding them back. And because we're limited right now and only being able to receive housing for really those 3 major areas of addiction, homelessness, domestic violence, if you fit one of those other categories, you just have to kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps, as they say, and do your best to continue forward. And I'm not saying people can't do that, but we want to, again, fill in those gaps.
Lots of people do, right? But also what we see is that they do that at the expense of their mental, emotional, and spiritual health.
Yes.
Right? They just plow through, and then they come to us
Not
and they're
just
like,
theirs, but their kids.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean that as that let me just qualify that statement, I feel like, because I don't mean that they're doing that intentionally to hurt the kids.
No, survival.
I mean, they're all trying to survive. And they're trying to do the best they can.
Yeah. And of course, we know that that's what happens with a traumatic situation, a crisis situation. We go into survival mode and we lose track of other things. We lose often our ability to make decisions, to even recognize the resources that we have. We can't just, like you mentioned, finding your husband deceased. A situation like that, a woman isn't going to necessarily immediately think, well, okay, who do I call? Do we have an insurance policy? Do I need to sell my house? You don't, that's not where you go. Your heart is broken. You're in shock. Your mind does not, the brain does not function as it would when you're in a calm, steady state or situation.
Yeah. And before someone goes to the thought, which somebody probably already has as well, they're talking about young widows and that the likelihood of somebody dying in their home at a young age is so rare. Man, the statistics tell us otherwise.
Yeah, for sure.
And so our own statistics tell us otherwise, but so do the national statistics here in the U.S. tell us differently. And then I know in other countries, even the statistics are pretty high.
Right.
And so if we look at numbers, they tell us the likelihood of a woman that is younger needing services, and young is a relative term, I understand, but younger needing services of a house is so much higher than what we think. And so that really is like, okay, so what is these restoration houses and what are we going to do with them that's different than the typical housing? So we've kind of started to build this little case for them. And so the restoration houses will be a home where a woman and her children can stay with us for about 2 years is what we estimate. And how we came up with that is our average time right now that clients stay with us is about 18 months. And so 18 months to 2 years. And so we thought, well, that seems like about a good amount of time where we can really get through a good amount of programming and really help them get to a good and place of wholeness. But we also want to work with not only the woman, the lady that we're serving, but also their children and really help them work through addressing whatever mental health topic or aspect that they're working through. And so that's one part of it, giving them a safe place. And so the other, with the restoration houses, I want you to picture like tiny or really small homes because we want them to have their own home. And it's not going to be like this. People are like, well, why don't you just make an apartment? Well, because I want it to be a house so they can learn how to be in a home together because they need to learn how to heal together, how to be a family together, how to just do all the things that family do together and what a better way to do that is in a home.
Yeah. I love that you keep using the word home.
Yeah.
Right? You must have said it 10 times, right?
Yeah.
But that is our vision. That's what we want. We don't want the ladies we serve just to have shelter, just to have basics. Right. We want them to have a home, a place where you belong, right? A place where you can experience love and you can grow. We grow in a home.
Yes.
There's so much more to just it's more than a shelter.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and the other thing with it being a home, that if you look at our buildings, again, if you go to our website and look at all the different renderings, if you look at all of our drawings, there's intentionality of all of our buildings look like a house on the outside. They have a homey look.
Right.
And the reason behind that is because if you've been through hard things, sometimes home hasn't always been a place that's been safe. And we want to change that we make a gentle shift in that paradigm for them to say, home can be a place of safety. And what a better way to model that than to help them learn how to do that as a family together.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have these homes so they can live in. So it's going to be, again, go and you can see the renderings, but it's basically a small, tiny home where it's comfortable enough for them to be there for a short period of time, but not so comfortable that they won't be ready to move on in a couple of years. But again, as we were as I was going through and doing this research, another thing that we recognized or found that was missing was that when someone goes into shelter, often but not always, they have to give up everything that they own.
Yeah.
And that is another, that can add to a layer of trauma to someone.
Absolutely. Very painful.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, because you think about childhood memories even. Like, if you can only bring enough that can fit into a closet, that's great. I mean, I know, and again, this is not disparaging what's out there. I'm just saying we're trying to meet those gaps that are out there, and how can we do a little bit different or better? And so we thought, well, how can we do that differently? Because again, if we're just going to a tiny home, they're not going to be able to fit a whole lot in that. So we thought, well, what if we put storage units on the property? Because, if you've been anywhere in the U.S. in the last year or so, storage units are everywhere. So we're like, we could just take a small version of that, put them on our property, one they can bring, whatever they need or whatever they want to bring, and put them in that storage unit and stock it, because their houses will already be furnished. We don't want them to use their furniture. We want them to bring what they have. But then while they're there, they're going, as they're going through our programs, we're going to have like a points or dollar system that they're going to start calculating and earning points and dollars as they go through different markers. But if you remember that store we talked about in the community center in the beginning, that it was that place of donation from the high quality household items. Well, as they're going through that, they're going to be able to go back and shop and go, when I came here, I wasn't able to bring a table with me, and I really want to earn that table. So they're going to earn dollars so they can get that table, and then they're going to put that in the storage unit. Because our model of care is when they leave us, we don't want them to leave and kind of circle back. We want to say, we want to help you fully heal as best as we can, equip you to know how to move forward, but then help you be established so when you go out into the world, you have the things you need physically as well.
Right. Yeah, I love that, the freshness, the newness, right? And yet we're not stripping them of their things. Those things are in a safe place, because there can be lots of mixed emotions for a woman in a situation like that. And even the children, where there are things you don't want to let go of. And at the same time, there are things that when you look at them and you touch them, bring back unpleasant memories, right? So to have that for safekeeping, but there's this fresh, clean, new environment and opportunity to grow, become something better and stronger and more resilient, and be able to choose nice things and not have to move into this next phase of your life, leave the restoration houses, move into a next phase of your life, and have to take with you, items perhaps that carry bad memories with them, but truly have a fresh new start.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much. I think about the restoration houses, and while we'll start out with just a few at a time, but as we grow, we can add more. I just think the impact that can make, not just in our community here locally, but just the communities around. Because if anybody ever has worked in an organization such as ours that serves women, the women come from everywhere.
Sure do.
There's such a need, and the impact is just, I don't know. I get excited to think about what all we can do to serve the women and their children too.
Right.
Because again, that's another question we get asked a lot is, what about my kids?
Yeah.
My kiddos are hurting. They're struggling. And right now we don't have capacity. But man, when we get to that third phase, we will.
Yeah. It's going to be such an exciting time.
Yeah, it'll be so fun.
And so rewarding to be able to meet all the different levels of need.
Yeah. It will be. I don't know. I can picture the property, because all of this that we've talked about in these 3 phases, we envision to be on one property. And so people are like, wow, that's a lot of land. I'm like, yep, it is.
It is a lot of land.
It is 50 acres. And so, that's a lot of land. And I might even say, if you're listening to this, maybe I might even challenge, maybe you're listening to this and you're like, I have some acreage, that I might be willing to donate or to give part of or to work with Peace Restored. we'd love to talk. Maybe that's
Sure.
you, because we haven't, we've looked at multiple properties, but we haven't identified the perfect piece of land for us yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if that's you and you're like, hey, I'd love to partner with you. I have land. I know the place that would be good. Please reach out and talk to us, or reach out to me or Renee. And we'd love to have that conversation of what does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. And this, the vision, it's going to take lots of people and lots of a variety of skills.
Yes.
So if you're a builder and you want to build, or you have land and you want to leave us land, the ladies will, in the restoration houses, will gain skills, just some job skills, professional skills.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you think, wow, it really is an incredible vision, it's maybe you're thinking it's too big, it's not possible, right? But yet maybe there's still a voice, there's still a little something there pulling at you saying, it sounds crazy, but I want to be a part of it. Yeah. Absolutely. Please join us. We would love for people to join us.
And I would say, don't discount what you can do to help.
That's right.
Because maybe you're the person that's sitting there going, I don't have 50 acres, or I don't have a skill, like you guys are talking about, some type of good building skill, or some type of HVAC skill, or any of those things. I don't have those skills, but I could do $25 here and there. I could do $25 a month. That's okay. Because again, that's building our foundation. And so any way you can do to help us come alongside of us to help us get to this vision is amazing. Yeah. And that's what we're looking for, is people to support us. You kind of touched on it real quick, and I'm going to talk just about one more part that we want to have on the property. Sure. Which we already have now, but it'll be bigger when we get there. Because this was the other thing that I learned when I was doing that research piece, was often, again, but not always, when someone goes into care at a facility or shelter of some type, they either lose their job, have to give it up for some reason or another, and sometimes they might be without a job for a couple of years. Yeah. So I always tell people, imagine if you walk into a job interview, and of course you're going to hand them a resume, and the first thing they see is there's a 2-year gap. Right. What do you think their first question is going to be? Yeah. What happened? Yeah. What have you been doing for the last 2 years? Where have you been for the last 2 years? Yeah. Well, insert awkward pause, right? Awkward moment, because it's not something you really probably want to jump into during your first interview, right? Like, for the last 2 years, this has been what I've been struggling through. This is what I've been doing. That's probably what you're prepared to talk about in the job interview, because you're there to get a job. So we thought, well, how can we overcome this obstacle? What can we do? So, we thought, we should just create a retail space. And so that's what we've been doing over the last couple of years. We've been building out a retail space that we call Restored. We have it here located at our office. Again, this building that we're in the front half is our retail space. You can also go on our website, which has attached our digital version of the store. But the part that I really want to talk about is the retail space. And so we have candles and T-shirts and boutique items and bracelets and Bible studies and so much more. Artwork. We have all these things in there. We partner with different individuals and businesses to be able to resource these products. And so the purpose of this space is kind of multi-focused. One, to bring in revenue to the organization, of course, it's really important. But as we get to that third phase, we're going to have this store available for our clients to work at, because we want them to build their resume as they're with us. Because there's so much they can learn. It's not just run a retail space. Right. It's about how do you source products, because we design all of our own T-shirts. And so how do you design
marketing, business how do you market skills, them? Right? Accounting. I mean, there's lots of skills that can be learned through that.
So many things. And so we want to build their resume, help them earn a small income, because, it's a retail space. So we want to pay them to work there. We want to help them build their resume, do all these things. So that way, again, we're filling one of those other gaps that's missing, while also bringing in revenue to the organization. So again, another way you can support us is by shopping at our retail space currently, because we have it now, because we want to build it so that way when it gets to the point of the third phase, it's a sustainable business, not a new business, so that we can sustain providing them income and can sustain growing and helping them be able to have enough work to do. And so I encourage you to go to our website, check it out. We'll ship products to you now, or you can come in and check it out. Who doesn't love to come smell candles?
I love coming in and smelling the candles.
I know they are, and I might be a little biased, but they are kind of amazing.
They are. They really are.
Yeah. So, so that's really all that we got going on at our vision.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's it. Just
That's
a few tiny little things.
Just a couple things.
Just some ideas floating around.
Yeah, one or two.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited for the future and just to see how it unfolds and, when it happens. And I'm sure it'll be in God's perfect timing.
It will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for now, we're along for the ride, and we're prayerfully waiting in anticipation of when God will open those doors. We know that this is the direction He has us moving forward, and we do that. We are pretty confident in that. We know it's going to be a benefit for the clients that we serve. And so we just, like Renee said, we just can't wait to see it happen. It's going to be amazing.
And we're praying for the people who are listening and to see how God is going to work and provide the need through our listeners.
Yeah, because
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying that, because maybe you're listening and you're thinking, well, I can't do that, but I know somebody who might be able to. Share this podcast with them, please.
Yeah.
It's okay. We don't mind you sharing our podcast.
Absolutely.
We would appreciate it.
Please do. And maybe, we like to work with people in school. We have the internship program. We have, some people on staff who are quite young, quite capable and quite young. And so if you, maybe your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, whatever. Maybe you have young people coming up who are trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do with my life? Maybe this is something that God is bringing them to, and maybe they're in a season of God preparing them, giving them the education and the skills so that when the time comes, they'll be able to serve alongside us. Yeah.
Because we need more than counselors here.
Absolutely.
We need marketing. We need grant writers. We need,
That's right.
You name it, accounting. I mean, there's so many skill sets that it takes to run it because,
That's right.
While we're a nonprofit, we are a business. And so we still have to do all the things that businesses do. So, if come alongside of us, we would love for you to join us in this journey. So thank you guys for joining us on this journey of history and vision of Peace Restored. It's been really fun to really kind of think about it and rehash and think about what's coming next. So again, if you missed any of our previous podcasts, I ask that you check them out. And in the meantime, if you'd like to learn more about us, you can go to our website at peacerestored.net. And don't forget to check out our show notes again, where you'll be able to find contents and link a few videos as well. And as we wrap up our mission and vision of Peace Restored, make sure to stay tuned as we begin to share with you our practical ways where you too can seek healing and find hope. So join us in our next podcast where we'll learn about boundaries and what a boundary is and how you can set them. So come back next time to hear our stories of transformation, growth, and power. This is Peace Restored.